are in the studio, Van's Guitarland, with legendary hero of music, blues, psychedelic rock, everything else to go along with it, Mr. Van Wilks.
Glad to be here, Linda. Thanks for having me.
Wow, I'm really excited to be here with you. I appreciate your taking the time to do this with us. And we're going to go back to the beginning, back to Van's childhood. Where were you born and raised?
Galveston, Texas, for a couple of years. Then we moved to Brownwood, and then to Lubbock. So I served time in Lubbock, and that's where I really learned how to play. When I was starting in about when the Beatles came out, '64. And,
did you take lessons when you were younger?
A few in Lubbock, and then I had uncles that played, and they were always in country swing bands, and so I picked up a lot from them and from cousins, and it was just the thing to do at the time, and it was nonstop guitar, and forget about the 8th grade.
Right.
But no. Yeah, it was just a dynamic change in the whole world when the Beatles hit. It just changed everything. There we were in little Lubbock, Texas, and which we all know now, a lot of musicians have come out of there. And,
sure.
Something about that West Texas water or something. I don't know, and then moved back to Brownwood and graduated in '69 and moved on to San Marcos to go to school, and then lived in Wimberley for a long time, and that's where I just went, okay, it's going to be music because I don't know how to do anything else. So.
That's great. So you said uncles and cousins, so are you pretty close to your family then?
Yeah, but all the uncles are gone by now, and yeah, we've got a pretty good extended family of cousins that we get together twice a year.
So is your family supportive of the whole music business?
Very much so. My dad owned a Wilks department store in Brownwood, and he never once said, "You're coming to work in the store." I mean, of course I did in the summers.
So he let you follow your
And then
own
in
dream?
fact, a couple of summers, I didn't even want to work in the store, so I worked at the cemetery. Yeah, great, outside on my own time. But no, I always say look back how lucky I am to have had parents that were really proud of me doing what I do, and for whatever the cost, success, failure, whatever, they were there. And I teach guitar lessons now to make a living in the live music capital of the world. Thank you very much. And I always tell that to my young students, that when I see that their parents are supportive, boy, you have no idea how lucky you are. Where do you think this $1,000 guitar just magically appeared? But and most of them get it. Some of them are still like, I probably was at first, being a teenager, like, I deserve this. I'm predestined for this. But no, you're not. And so when you have relatives, parents, girlfriends, whatever, that are supportive of you, it's really amazing, and really, because a musician can, out of necessity, be quite self-centered, because there's nobody but you doing it. So you're the one that makes those phone calls. You're the one that does all this. So yeah, it can be. You look back at yourself after the day of work and you go, "Wow, that was all just me. I want to talk to somebody about them for a change." And so.
That's a hard
But it's the drive. I don't call it ego. I call it whatever makes you get up in the morning and try to get a gig and play your guitar, try to write a song, try to get an album out. It's the kind of ego that pushes you, not pushes over people.
Yeah, and there is a big difference.
There is a big difference, and I've known it both ways. I've seen, we've all seen it all.
You don't possess that pushing over ego. We're going to hit on that a little bit at the end, because you appear to me to be a very humble individual, extremely humble, and that's why I think it's difficult for musicians to promote themselves.
Good, I fooled another one.
So on another personal level, do you have any pets?
Not at the moment. Coco was my cat, and one of my CDs is named Coco's Hideaway.
Yeah, I was wondering about that.
Had her, she got me through a divorce, and moved out here, lived out here for a long time, and then she died about 5 years ago. When you travel a lot, I mean, that's an excuse to not have a pet, because I really love pets.
But
What I have now is the neighbor's dog, Lucy. I have a
There you
surrogate
go.
dog, I have an animal without commitment, and she may even make an appearance today. She wanted to be on film, so.
Well, that would be
Yeah.
wonderful. We're actually, yeah, that would be great. Musicians and pets, we're all about it.
Yeah, I just did a thing for Austin Pets Alive, where they, I don't know if they're gonna do a calendar or not, but they had almost every musician in town
Yeah,
with
I've
with
seen
an
some of
animal,
them.
and
Mhm.
they gave me this giant pit bull named Spanky or something. I forgot what his name was. But I used this guitar here that Billy Gibbons graciously had made for me in 1979 with my name on the neck, and the dog's here, and I actually got him to put his paw over the neck, so it's a beautiful
Wow.
picture.
Yeah.
And then he didn't bite me, so that's even more beautiful. There were two people behind the chair out of camera range holding him, because he was powerful.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm a sucker for anything with four legs. So. Except
Well,
maybe a sloth.
I had a
Oh.
comment to go along with that, but I'm gonna hold back because we are on camera, so I'm gonna try to keep all
Okay.
those comments till after we shut the camera down. What are some of your favorite places for traveling?
We've always done well in France, but I mean, that's kind of a joke with Americans, like, you know, they gave Jerry Lewis an award for the Croix de Guerre, I don't know, but I mean, he's a genius, so. But people always, you know, I've even seen t-shirts printed up, I'm big in France. But France has an affinity for Texas blues, and I'm real lucky about that.
Totally agree.
And so we do okay there, as does many Texas musicians. It's not just me, but so I love France. We've played in everywhere from Moscow. 3 years ago, we were in India, which was
How was the reception there?
really good. Where we were, everybody spoke English.
Yeah.
And they were, you know. But you learn a lot about life traveling. You see this, especially in India, abject poverty, kids sleeping on the street,
Yeah.
which makes you cry. And then you see the people at this festival with their Bentleys and their. So I don't know, but it's a humbling experience, and you learn not to take things for granted, because that could be you laying there.
Yeah.
But music has been the vehicle to get us around the world, and it's really nice to experience different cultures and food. And the one thing that just truly amazes me is that music is the tie.
Yeah.
Our first night in Moscow of 10 nights, we were at this club called the Chesterfield. They had one in Paris, Madrid, and Moscow.
Sure.
We did the circuit.
I remember.
And the place is just packed, and it's when the Spice Girls were big. And they get us up on stage at 11:30 and say, when we tell you, and you kind of do what the Russians say. These were guys that you didn't want to mess with. And so yeah, okay, just tell me when to start. So we're there, and all these people, upscale, big fur hats, you know, the typical Russian thing. Dancing to the Spice Girls, and I looked at the band and said, "This is our Alamo. We're not gonna make it through this." But we started one of my songs. It's typical, nothing unusual, just that kind of stuff. And they slowly looked at us, then they slowly started moving. And the greatest thing, though, were these four big, long-haired Russian guys, and you knew they were musicians, but they did this right in front of us, just glaring. I was going, oh, we don't want this problem. By the end of the night, they were on stage with us.
That's awesome.
So I called it, I was thinking I was helping along détente, you know, ambassador.
Yeah.
You know, Russian relations. Once again, music is the great soother of the beast. Sometimes, you know, I said a minute ago, everybody knows this old adage, you can please some of the people some of the time, and all of the people some of the time, but you can't please all the people all the time. And so you never know. Austin is a spoiled city, and I'm one of those spoiled people because we've seen it all. We've seen the best, we've taken the best for granted, because we got to see him every night. I mean, if you would have been in London when Hendrix showed up and saw him every night, or Cream or something, you might have gone, man, that's really good. But, you know, you go home and go, yeah, I'll see him next week again, it'd be great. Well, that's what this town is too. We, touts itself as the live music capital of the world. Well, there's a lot of big cities that have a lot of music, and but Austin is. I've been playing here since '70 or '71, and I don't seem to be leaving anytime soon. So it's a wonderful city.
Yeah, I was trying to remember.
It's just changed, but
Definitely.
so what?
Well, I was trying to remember the first time that I saw you, and I had texted my brother, and he said it was probably about 30 years ago, which was about the same time. And I'm pretty sure it was Steamboat.
For a while at Steamboat, I had a weekly radio show on Z102.
Yep.
And then I hosted a jam night, and we played there all the time. Before that, in the earlier '70s, it was Mother Earth, and that's when Austin wasn't quite so fragmented musically, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. There were genres. There was when in '70 something we called it the Cosmic Cowboy Scare, when it hit, and us rock musicians were just being totally looked over, because it was the Willie thing, which is just great. I'm a huge fan, and but it's funny how things change. I say I've survived all the fads in this town because I'm still doing what I did there. But Mother Earth was a cool place, and we were called Fools. And Tommy Shannon was my bass player, and Phil Ballinger was on drums, and it was way before Tommy joined Stevie Vaughan. He was the original Double Trouble, and this was way before that. We signed with Bill Ham from ZZ Top. He saw us play one night at Mother Earth after the ZZ Top rompin' stompin' barbecue that almost destroyed Darrell Royal's beloved stadium, at least the grass. And I didn't know any of them then. About a month later, I got a call. This is Bill Ham, ZZ Top. So anyway, we signed and we hit the road, and we toured all over the place. We were I call it the janitorial opening act for huge bands. We did Heart's whole tour. We did a lot of cool, fun stuff because we were so young.
Was that your first tour?
Oh, I guess of any magnitude, not hard, but we'd drive. One time we drove to upstate. Let's see, we played 3 shows: Michigan, Utica, and Kalamazoo, Utica, and somewhere else. 3 shows with Bachman Turner Overdrive in hockey arenas, and in Niagara Falls, and we just jumped in the truck, sleeping on top of our equipment. Let's go. We didn't think twice about it. And I doubt that we came back with any money. I don't know how we could. But what an experience. We were playing big shows, learning how to not fall down on stage. And you can't trade that. We opened for Kiss, for everybody. And of course we didn't go over too well with Kiss. That was in New Orleans. But, you try, go for it. But, and that's why if I do miss old Austin musically, it's because of the Armadillo's gone. And that was a big place, a big stage where a new band could learn how to work a big stage. So we'd try to put on a show. Like a show meaning no dancing girls. We'd have a backdrop, lights would go down. I used to use Debussy's Engulfed Cathedral, but played by a Japanese artist named Tomika, which was real avant-garde at the time. And so the lights go off, this music comes on, and then we walk out. And I remember on a Wednesday night we'd have 1,000 people. Of course it was free, but it was just mind-blowing, and it taught me personally how to try to do a little stage set without any money. Meaning how to place the amps to where it looked like you just didn't walk off the street and jump up in your t-shirt to play. Nothing against t-shirts, but and now actually that I look at some of the clothes we were wearing back then, I go, oh my God.
But at least the gear was professional.
Yes. One of the coolest things we ever did, we opened the Sunday break in May of '76, which was in a field on 290 and I-35, which is now not a field.
I know.
It's a red line or something.
It's
But
across from.
there's a picture back here somewhere. They picked me and Tommy and Phil up on my house in '76 on Brownlee Circle, which is off of close to West Lynn, in a limousine. I made sure we rehearsed at 10 o'clock the previous morning because that's what time we had to play that day, just to see anything would come out of the throat, or Tommy and I could even get up. So limousine shows up, we feel like, oh man, they're so cool. And so we opened, it was Frampton's peak of his career. Frampton, Santana.
Wasn't it officially the first Texas Jam?
No, that was all Dallas stuff.
It was, because
This was called the Sunday Break, and then there was Sunday Break 2 with Fleetwood Mac and Steve Miller. We did Sunday Break 1. So,
okay.
We're backstage, get ready. I played this exact guitar, walk up on stage, and as far as we could see, people. There were 50,000 people there at 10 o'clock in the morning. And I've got some pictures of us from behind looking at it, and I was going, I'm sure we were just going, oh God, oh gosh, I wish I was playing somewhere else right now. I was in bed.
It was big.
But we did it. I'm sure we played 30 minutes. And then I had the brilliant idea to play the Armadillo that night. I still had the poster for it. And this is what keeps you in line. You do this one beautiful gig, 50,000 people. Of course, they weren't there to see us. Doesn't matter. Well,
they saw
it'd be
you.
nice. And then we go to Armadillo, and that night, and there's hardly anybody there. And that's
they were
what.
Too tired for the afternoon
exactly.
show.
Why
They
we
weren't
didn't
coming.
think of that, I don't know. People had been there drinking since 10 a.m. If they drink. If they don't, they'd still be fried from the sun and everything. So that's just an example of how life can keep you in check.
I remember that. I climbed to the top of my oak tree, and I could see the concert. And my brothers and I went up there together, and we snuck in a back fence.
Yeah, I've heard so many stories. Yeah, we cut through the fence, and
yeah.
But anyway, that was just it was neat, and it's just another learning experience which a musician, if you're going to stick it out, will go through every day. Like we just had my 4th annual birthday thing at Threadgills. It got rained out May 23rd. We did it again June 6th. Eric Johnson came, set in. Previous years had been Billy Gibbons 2 years and Christopher Cross 2 years in a row. So it was something we looked forward to. And luckily we had a good crowd. Because you just never know.
It was a fabulous show, and I was mesmerized by your professionalism when that person jumped the curb, whatever it was that happened.
Yeah.
Knocked down the fence behind the soundboard, and you guys just kept going.
Talk about a gate crasher. Didn't want to pay the cover. So we were thinking, wasn't that much. Yeah, people could have gotten hurt. So if you would have seen it the next day, it was pretty scary.
Yeah.
But it was just some guy that didn't have control of his faculties, I guess. Ran right into where the sound man was and missed him about 2 feet.
Yeah.
And
yeah, I saw that. That was not.
Yeah, we were on stage and we couldn't hear it, of course, because we were playing very noisily, as we were wont to do. And all I noticed was people facing the other way and kind of moving over this way. I go, was it something I said? You know what? You're not looking at us. What's going on here? But we were lucky. We didn't need that. And they found a blowgun and a slingshot on the dashboard of the car. Didn't find the guy. But I was thinking, what's he going to go get a Slurpee with a blowgun? Give me your Slurpee. I don't know. I don't get it. Unless he was from the Brazilian rainforest or something. Who knows? Anyway.
Who knows? It is Austin.
The point is, you have good gigs and you have bad gigs, and you try to keep things in perspective. Even with a bad one, you go, we've heard this all our lives. Well, you should have been here last night. It was great.
Yeah.
And I go, and I kind of scoff a bit at the musicians who complain that, and I'm one of them sometimes, that we don't make enough money here. I figure if the person can draw a crowd, it's okay. I don't always blame it on the club. Sometimes I'll blame it on what's going on that night.
Very
oh my
true.
God, look what we're up against. No
Rock
wonder.
rally this weekend.
Yeah.
So if you're playing on a Friday or Saturday night this weekend, you're gonna have a hard time.
We played the Rock Rally a couple of times, and we were on a stage on Congress Avenue, right under the traffic light, and there's the Capitol up there, and it was a beautiful sight because it was people all the way down. And they said, when the bikes start coming in from the Expo Center, we want you to start playing. And so I was all ready to go, and then the bikes started coming in, and it was the loudest thing I'd ever heard, even louder than me.
Yeah.
And so I just said, No, we'll wait, because no one could have heard a thing. But those are fun. I hope it's safe this year. It will be.
Oh, yeah, yeah, I guess.
But that's a very Austin-y thing, just like all the other festivals. And it's what makes this town Austin.
True. What do you consider one of the biggest challenges in the music industry? Other than building a fan base?
Well, there's several. You can't just say there's one challenge. One would be wanting to be a musician and making a living doing it so you can devote your time to it. Unless you have a king or queen, like in the Middle Ages, to the patron of the arts. That's how Beethoven, that's how they all, that wasn't Middle Ages, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
All the classical composers, they hoped that they didn't fall out of grace with the king or queen. Like, you wrote this sonata in B flat, you're out of here. You know, I'm sure you could write what they considered. Once again, you can't please the king all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think one of the biggest challenges is being able to make a living playing music, so you can. I hate to use the word practice, but so you can do it, so you can play.
Yeah.
I teach guitar lessons to supplement my income, and also it affords me a way to give back, affords me a way to have a guitar in my hand all day long.
Mm-hmm.
I love doing it. I've got some incredible students, and it keeps me from having to maybe play a gig for $20 or $50 that I don't want to play, just so I could have that tiny little bit of money.
Yeah.
But everybody has their own way of doing it. Some people choose not to play unless it's the right gig. I say, you need to be out there doing it. You're not always going to make the big money. So another big challenge is the way the business end of it, which is the oxymoron of music business. They don't go together, but they have to, and you have to make it work. And so it's really tough these days. It's really fragmented. But I keep thinking, we're doing our new album now, and I keep thinking maybe it's better. Because we had our big album on Mercury Records in 1980, got the big advance and all the tour support. Still didn't make a dime. And I'm sure I still owe them money. So this way...
How does that happen? To the layperson
Creative
who doesn't
accounting.
understand
Creative
anything
accounting.
about the music industry, that's...
I don't know, but the point is, these days, with a computer and a microphone, you can make a record.
Yeah.
You don't have to have Abbey Road, which would be kind of cool. But you don't have to have a major studio. We've done a whole lot of my new album right here, sitting here. Neighbors didn't complain yet. So that's a challenge, is dealing with the business. And then after you finish the record, what do you do with it? So today I think the biggest challenge is distribution for an independent artist. And I don't have an answer to that at all. I'm hoping, we had Dixie Frog in Europe for years, but downloads and streaming has wiped them out, and a lot of other people too. Luckily, artists can sell the CDs themselves through social media and CD Baby, and there's a lot of outlets. And if you're with a publisher, that helps. Like I just wrote a song, 2 years ago with Billy Gibbons. It's on the latest ZZ Top album album's called La Futura. The song's called Drive By Lover. One great irony of the business is that people are not buying physical CDs, or physical product rather, like they used to.
Yeah.
So if this song would have been on Eliminator, something in the 80s where people were buying records, you'd see my Bentley out there.
Right.
Now, I'm not whining about it. I'm just explaining the way things have drastically changed. One very wonderful thing happening is people, especially young people, are buying vinyl again.
Mm-hmm.
And John Coons from Waterloo Records says that's what keeps the store alive. And when I heard that, I went, yeah. Now, on the other hand, for an artist to, like with this new CD of ours, of course we're going to do CDs, but I want to do vinyl too. Because I grew up, I still have every record I ever bought with the date on them. And I miss laying in bed looking at that album cover and saying, wow, Nicky Hopkins, the piano player, played on this Stones tune, then he played with Steve Miller, then he did, you see, it's where you learn.
Yeah.
And plus the artwork is more art because it's 12 inches. So we're going to try to do that if our Kickstarter kicks in enough. And so the challenges are just for a musician, especially in Austin, making a living so you can get on with your art, try to write, dealing with what to do with the record once you get it. You can make one cheap enough, but then what do you do with it? Does it end up being a vanity project where it's just for your aunt? You know, nobody wants that. You want to get it out to the world, and that's the struggle. That's a challenge. So you want to try to find distribution.
Well, tell us a little more about the Kickstarter project.
Well, I didn't know what Kickstarter was until I started hearing other people doing it. And at first I was against it because it sounded like charity. And like, oh, I'm not a campaigner. I play music. I can't ask people to vote for me, which is in essence what you're doing. You know. But I started researching it, and when an artist such as Kenny Loggins, I guess, has to do it, and he gets 120 grand or more. I don't know how much he ended up getting, but it proved to me what I've been saying about the state of the music business, which we've all known for years. I mean, I'm not a psychic. If a guy that's had major hits like him, whether you like him or not, doesn't matter. It's irrelevant to this what we're proposing here. If he needs a fan base to get him a record, and it works, then I think it's a very viable thing. Number one, that means the fan can feel a part of the project. He or she is contributing to a very finite thing, and they get something for it. They get a signed CD, like we're doing. Of course, we're doing
amazing stuff.
Signed CDs. I've got a lot of memorabilia stuff and guitars. Billy Gibbons signed a guitar for me that went immediately. So our Kickstarter, I don't know when this comes out, but it's up at the end of this month, and
I think there are 18 more days.
we got 18 more days. Okay.
Yeah.
And so I don't know how it works. I do know that it's not the do-all, be-all, but it is a help. And with Kickstarter, I won't be beholden, like we would say, to a record company. You know, they give you an advance of $50,000. Well, that's why it's called an advance. It's payable. It's payback time. So this will be money that will all go into specific areas, and we hope we get enough. We hope to go over 18 because we want to do vinyl and have a great artwork, have great artists do the work and mix it and master it and produce it, which means, you know, distribute it, a publicist. It's endless if you want to do it right. And of course, why do something if you don't try to do it right?
If you're not going to go all the way.
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to an aspiring musician, somebody who hasn't built that fan base, somebody who can't have their birthday bash, packed house at Threadgill, somebody that's not there yet? What are some of the key things you think they should know?
I certainly don't have the answers to all the questions, or else I'd have some gold records on these walls. You know, I just have stuck with it. And I can joke and say, because it's the only thing I know how to do, but it's what I truly love to do. And so tenacity would be the word that should be, what's the word? It should be used by any musician to just keep going. You'll have a good night, you'll have a bad night. Who knows what tomorrow may bring, as traffic said. And just get out there and try to be, oh, that sounds too corny, try to be true to your art. Nah, just play and have fun. And don't get too caught up in carrying a briefcase, you know, because this counts first. If you don't have this, that briefcase isn't going to help you at all. And that briefcase will be empty. There won't be any contracts in there. There won't be any cash.
Yeah.
So you just got to stick with it and be ready to get slapped down one day and be king of the mountain the next day. And always know that right around the corner, there's somebody that can smoke you under the table. and that's what I think should keep everybody level-headed. Like, don't believe your own press, especially if it's bad.
Sure. Yeah. Who have been some of the biggest influences musically for you?
Well, being 64, and I'm glad I'm 64. I'm very proud to be this age and still doing what I love to do. And I grew up in that when I think the world changed. With music, because of music, not in spite of, but because of. And of course that was the Beatles and all the English, British invasion stuff. And that made us turn around and look at our own music that indigenous to America, which was the old black blues guys, which were pretty much overlooked until, I have to say, I used to be embarrassed about this, but I had no way of knowing that I didn't hear Roll Over Beethoven until George Harrison did it on the Beatles' second album. Lubbock, Texas did not play black music unless it was maybe Motown.
Yeah.
And so I had no outlet for it. No way would I have heard Muddy Waters or Howlin' Wolf or John Lee Hooker, Jimmy Reed, unless you knew somebody that knew somebody. Like Billy Gibbons always says, the family's maid turned him on to a lot of stuff. But so what I did, Led Zeppelin, of course, summer of '69, that album comes out, and I go, oh boy, okay. And then Jeff Beck, and then Jimi Hendrix. So the holy ghost of those guys, those bands, did it for me. And then I'd see these song titles, and You Shook Me. Who's that? Who's this guy? Who's Elias McDaniel, which is Bo Diddley? Who's, all the names, who's McKinley Morganfield? Who wrote this? Who's Willie Dixon, who wrote all those songs? Most of them. And then you go back. Like, to bring up Billy Gibbons again, he would make me cassettes, which I still have, of the original versions of all these songs that I knew as Led Zeppelin or Beck, Rod Stewart singing.
He took you back to the roots with
Yeah, and it changed my life, and so and even John Lee Hooker doing that's pretty much LaGrange, but Billy honors these people. Now my second Led Zeppelin album, Led Zeppelin 2 with Whole Lot of Love, well, it says Page and Plant. Now if you look at the album, it says Page, Plant, Dixon, because it is a direct ripoff of You Need Love by Willie Dixon. Words are almost identical. How they could do that back then and not give him credit, I don't know, but before he died, they sued. And I know those English guys respected all these people, these iconic characters.
I think
But how they could
business, maybe.
it might have been a management thing.
Yeah.
I've read articles where Page blamed it on Plant blamed it on Page. But the words, come on. But what I do like about the English guys, us little white Texas or American people may have never heard this music had it not been cranked up to 11 using Marshall amps and just honking with Beck and Page and all them. Where would we have heard it unless we got into that kind of music